All right, welcome back to ABA exam review and the continuation of our RBT practice question series where we're going through another set of questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're turning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials, including our combo pack. When you pass your exam, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. Let's get going. You, a behavior technician, are asked by a caregiver to design a new intervention to address their child's mealtime behaviors. You have not received training in creating intervention plans, and you feel uncertain about how to proceed. What is the best course of action for you to take? So, you are the behavior technician in this situation. And what do we know about your situation? We know a caregiver asked you to design a new intervention to address mealtime behaviors. Now, this is a tough spot for you as a technician because you're being asked by a caregiver to do something directly. And that can be challenging because as the technician, you of course want to give the best service. You want to maintain rapport with the family members, but you also have to know and recognize your role on the team. And your role is implementation primarily. Designing new interventions falls under the hands of the behavior analyst. That's what they're trained for. That's what their role is. It's all about what is your role on the team. Additionally, you've never received training in creating interventions and you're just uncertain about what to do. Given all this information, what is the best course of action for you, the technician, to take? A, research intervention strategies online and present them to the caregiver. Now, this isn't a bad idea. At least you're presenting empirical research. But before you proceed any further with the new intervention for mealtime behaviors, there's something else you want to do first. B, attempt to create a simple intervention based on previous experiences. This would be the worst course of action, right? That's not your role. It's not your competency. We haven't even done an assessment. You're being asked a direct question, but you've got to know what path to take. And that is not designing an intervention just based on something a caregiver asked you to do. C, refer to the caregiver to the supervising BCBA for assistance. Yes, this is what route we need to take. It's always going to be refer out to your supervisor or talk with your supervisor first and then proceed. So if the caregiver asks you to do this, you can tell them, I'm going to talk with my supervisor first, and then we'll go from there. But referring them to the supervisor is also a good course of action. D, decline to help and suggest the caregiver find another professional. Well, of course not, right? This is something that can be addressed, and we can talk with the supervisor and do assessments and start to work on intervention plans, but it's not something you as the technician need to be doing personally. So the best course of action for you to take is refer the caregiver to the supervising BCBA for assistance. The Grinch starts to sneak into Whoville to steal Christmas presents, but every time he takes a step into town, a loud alarm goes off, startling him. As a result, the Grinch begins avoiding Whoville altogether. What is changing the Grinch's behavior? When we think about what changes behavior, we're thinking about consequences. Consequence affect future behavior. What do we know about the Grinch's behavior? We know he's sneaking into Whoville, still presents. But when he gets into town, an alarm goes off. As a result, what happens? The Grinch begins avoiding Whoville altogether. So Grinch is sneaking into Whoville. He steps into town. Alarm goes off, and Grinch's behavior decreases. So if it's a decrease, it has to be what? It has to be extinction or punishment. It cannot be a reinforcement because reinforcement increases behavior. Why is it not extinction? With extinction, we're withholding something. Here, what's being added? The alarm is being added, right? So it's got to be positive. Something's being added. It's positive, it's decreasing. It must be C, positive punishment. Negative punishment means something is being removed. So the consequence that is changing the Grinch's behavior is going to be C, positive punishment. And that's how we can walk through consequence questions and make them very simple. How is the behavior changing? Is something being added, withheld, or taken away? A school principal is monitoring how often students are engaged in their work during a 30-minute study hall. Every 5 minutes, the principal observes and records whether each student is on task at that point in time. What type of data collection procedure is being used? So, data collection question. First off, are we using continuous or discontinuous measurement? Well, this is going to be discontinuous. We've got this 30-minute study hall, and we're looking in intervals, right? Every 5 minutes. So, essentially, our interval goes from 0 minutes to 5 minutes, right? And when we're dealing with interval recording, when or what type of interval recording or time sampling are we recording at the end of each interval? Because this principle is looking at whether each student is on task at 5 minutes. So an interval goes by, and at 5 minutes, the principal is taking data. Well, that'll be momentary time sampling. If we have something like partial interval recording, the behavior has to happen at any point in time, right, for it to count. With whole interval recording, that behavior has to happen the entire time for it to count. So know the difference between those three. So if in this case, the principal is looking just at the end of that interval, they're looking at a moment in time, going to be A, momentary time sampling. Not partial interval, because we're not worried about what's happening before that end of the interval. It's not whole interval, because the behaviors only has to happen at that point in time. And we know it's not a continuous measurement procedure, so it can't be D. What type of data collection procedure is being used? Momentary time sampling. Now, it is a group momentary time sampling, so planned activity check would also work. That is not an answer choice, so we're going to pick the next best thing, A, momentary time sampling. There's an issue with the heater in Neil's house. The heater does not stay on for very long and takes a long time to come back on when it is off. Neil starts to measure how long it takes for the heater to turn back on after it turns off. He takes this measurement multiple times. What type of measurement does this most resemble? All right, another measurement question. What do we know? We know Neil is looking at his heater. Heater is not staying on for long and takes a long time to come back on when off. So Neil is measuring how long it takes for the heater to turn back on after it turns off. So when the heater turns off, Neil's going to measure how long it takes for it to turn back on. So he's going to measure this. And then when it turns off again, he's going to measure how long it takes for it to turn back on. So he's essentially measuring in between off and on. What does that resemble? Well, that's going to resemble interresponse time. He's measuring the same thing, the time in between two things, over and over and over again. That's what we do with interresponse time, time in between responses. Latency is just the first SD to the response, right? But he's measuring the same thing over and over and over again, just time in between these responses or these off and on cycles. Rate, of course, is frequency over time. We're not taking a frequency count, so we're not going to use frequency here. And duration is the measurement of a single response, not time in between. Neil is measuring time in between off and on. So he's measuring A interresponse time. Be careful with duration. Duration doesn't measure time in between. It measures the length of one specific response or one specific item. Interresponse time and latency are in between. Before starting a therapy session, a tutor ensures that all materials are organized, data sheets are prepared, and the workspace is free of distractions. However, they realize halfway through the session that they forgot to review the progress notes from the previous session, leading to a delay in the current session. What step was missed while preparing for session? Straightforward question, right? Easy question, that's okay. Sometimes you'll get an easy question. When you get an easy question, trust your preparation and don't overthink. We're looking for the step that was missed while preparing for session. We know the tutor ensured all materials were organized, data sheets were prepared, and the workspace is free. However, they forgot to review progress notes. So what did they forget to do? What step was missed? A, prepare reinforcement ahead of time. There's no indication they didn't have reinforcement prepared. We just know they didn't check progress notes. B, cleaning the environment to ensure it's distraction-free. They did that. Workspace is free of distractions. C, gathering all materials as needed for session. They did get materials organized. They have data sheets. And then D, reviewing prior session data to guide current session activities. Yes, that's what they failed to do. They did not look at the progress notes. They did not look at the prior session. You've got to do that every single time. Now, if you're the only technician, it's a little different, but most of you will be working on teams. You have to look at session notes and data prior to starting session. What was missed? D, reviewing prior session data to guide current session activities. Thanks for watching. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials. When you pass, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. See you soon.